And we are live. And welcome everyone to another episode of 50 Hitting 50, the show where we talk about what it actually means to reach this collective milestone. And I have with me today the wonderful Penny Haslam, who has road tested 50 for us a little bit. And we are going to share a conversation about that. Penny, welcome to the show.
Hello, hi Deirdre, hi everyone. Thanks for watching today. It's really great to be here. And yeah, I have road tested 50. I was 52 a few weeks ago, but I still feel probably 42 in my mind. So we'll see where we get to with that.
Yeah, that quote that I found the other day, I mentioned to Penny just before we started that I'd seen a great quote, which I think sums up a vibe for a lot of people that 40 is the old age of youth, but 50 is the youth of old age. And that was from Victor Hugo. And I thought he really hit something on the head there with that. Did that resonate for you, Penny?
Yeah, and actually Uncle Ron sprang to mind when I heard that because my husband was sort of offloading and letting off steam about becoming something like 46. And, oh, I'm going to be 46 soon, this a few years ago. And Uncle Ron piped up and went, try being 86. Which put things in perspective is like, oh, okay, I'm actually feeling like a spring chicken now, so that's fine.
Yeah,
We put so much emphasis onto different decades and age, don't we? And sometimes rightly so, but other times it's like, oh gosh, we just forget about it now.
Yeah, and that's it. I think you can kind of forget a little bit more about it as long as you're not getting too creaky. I mean, I've had so many people in these conversations who talked about earlier kind of milestones like 30 being a really hard one for them to get past. And it's like, gosh, I mean, 30 just seems so young now. But yeah, I suppose we all take different, each one hits us quite differently.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in framing things to be good for you, not bad for you. And so positive thinking, that's not to say by any stretch of the imagination that I am some sort of Pollyanna character who just goes around saying life is wonderful, life is good. No, I know it's not always. However, I had a birthday card. I was in the birthday card section of the local shop and I was looking for something. And the card said, every birthday is a gift. I thought, yeah. So there is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every birthday is a gift. And I've got a group of mates, girlfriends, who we meet up once or twice a year. And they're always a bit like, oh, I'm going to be turning 50, or oh, it's my 55th coming up. And it's like, no, every birthday is a gift. Just we've got to really discipline ourselves to not listen to the crap that's around about getting older and really try to be on the vanguard of offering positive role models of older women to younger women, younger men as well, and just not societal pressures of looking a certain way, being a certain weight, being able to achieve certain things by certain milestones. By the time you're 30, you should have got married and had kids and like have a proper job and stuff. It's like, by the time you're 50, you should have paid off your mortgage and, rerunning a marathon. It's like, no. So yeah, it's a real strong discipline, I think, that you need to adopt throughout your life, but especially when, I feel more invisible now than ever. I don't feel like my makeup goes on the same as it used to, and my hair's doing funny things, and aches and pains and all that. And it's like you could easily fold, couldn't you, with all of that going on, and think, oh, well, I'm not going to. And I think, Deirdre, are you feeling this as well? Like we're in a cohort of women, maybe in their mid 40s all the way up to their mid 60s, who are going, no, we're not going to do that. We are still here. We are still brilliant.
Yeah, I don't think it's not actually just women, though. I mean, because I've had a very mixed group through these conversations, and I do think that there is a cohort is a good word for it, but people who don't really accept that 50 is the time to sit down and sit back and slide, basically. That 50 is a different opportunity now.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the great thing about it, that we're seeing so many people who are taking on completely new challenges, who are healthy and well enough to bring to bear the experience that they've gathered over the years. And I was thinking about this morning, because when I started out in work, it was still quite a linear process that you kind of you got through various stages and levels, and you got promoted up through the ranks and so on. And it
Video
was
game, wasn't it?
a bit like that, yeah.
Yeah, you've
And
achieved level 3. Brilliant.
but in that kind of format, it was natural that the old people were still in charge. But we don't even really have that anymore, because I could, if I decided tomorrow or the day after to go back into a corporate environment, it would be highly likely that I would have someone half my age doing the instructing or doing the the managing or whatever. So in that way as well, I guess it's a real change, isn't it?
Yes, I think we are the starting point of what is the more of which is to come, where gig economy, portfolio career, not necessarily having to be wedded to the same type of job. And for example, my dad always wanted me to become a personnel manager at Marks and Spencer's specifically. It's a very narrow idea of what he thought I should do. Obviously,
Why?
that was, pardon?
Do you know why?
Well, it was a safe job, and I think he saw me as a people person, and Marks and Spencer's was a nice organization, so I think
Mhm.
there was a lot there for him.
Mm.
He was very much of the idea that a steady job, he was an optician for all of his life. A steady job with a good company would be a pinnacle of success. And rightly so, in his eyes, he had working class background. His parents had lived in slums. In Manchester. He was the first to go to university, and so that for him was an island of security. So
Mm.
when I decided to leave the BBC, where I'd worked as a producer, and I was in my just turned 30, and I thought, right, now I'm going to take voluntary redundancy. I'm going to set up on my own. I don't know what doing, but I want to take a risk. I want to be
Mm.
brave and just try different things, and hopefully become more like talent, more like a presenter, reporter, that sort of thing, rather than behind the scenes. But I needed to take the gamble. So when during that period of move, I eventually got a slot on the BBC presenting on the news channel, on the rolling news channel, doing the business news. I got a call while I was with him, asking me if I'd go in next month and start filling in. And I was, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm going to be on live television. This is all I've ever wanted. This is going to be phenomenal. I'm so excited. I'm so pleased and proud. And I said to him, well, this is really exciting, isn't it? And he went, well, I don't know. What do you want to do that for?
Yeah.
Right. Which sounds horrible, doesn't it? And it was, but I had the good sense to go, well, what do you mean? What do you want to do that for? What does that mean, Dad? He said, well, is it going to lead to a proper job? And
Mhm.
so his agenda, his muddy boots were walking through my mind. And I could have easily been disheartened by that, but I recognized
Mhm.
it for what it was. It was his agenda, his insecurity, not
Mhm.
mine. And I
Yeah.
was very excited about doing that and having that moment. But yes, if you can get a job, that's great. But we are new thinkers around that, and we do not
Mhm.
have the same motivation that our
Mm.
parents have had. And our kids won't either. And it's really interesting to think about, you can't have a job that's going to be around forever. And
Mm.
people have seen their parents be made redundant or lose their jobs or have to do multiple jobs in order to
Mhm.
survive. And
Yeah.
we can't afford housing anymore.
Mhm.
The kids, people in their 40s cannot afford to get out of rented accommodation. So where's the motivation to be a
Mm.
salaried, hardworking, sell your soul to the corporate devil type person? It's a
Mm.
really brilliant and interesting time to be alive. And I hope I can continue being relevant, even though I often feel a bit, folding arms, feel like the oldest person in the room.
Well,
A bit
if I
uncomfortable that.
you and I kind of maybe came through it around the same time, and I spent quite a bit of time in PR and communications back in the day. So talking to business journalists and stuff was kind of what I did. In a different geographic location, we would probably have known each other through that, which was kind of weird. But the thing that has been playing on my mind this morning, as I was just kind of thinking about this conversation coming up, was the idea of your company name is a little bit famous, which I think is really fun. But what does that mean now versus what it meant back then?
Mm. Yeah, I think I've hit a sweet spot. I like to think I have anyway, with coming up and being bold enough to call my business Bit Famous. It spawned out of a book that I wrote called Make Yourself a Little Bit Famous, which is all about getting known for something and being able
Mm,
to power up and be known for what you do so you can attract clients, customers, candidates, you
mhm,
can attract colleagues, you can be seen and heard as an expert in your field. And it was about encouraging people to identify with some of their knowledge, that knowledge and experience, and being useful. So
mm,
being known and being useful, and that is a lovely thing that people go, oh, I can do that. I don't want to show off though, and I
mm,
certainly don't want to go to networking with nothing to say for myself. But if I can find a way to be known and be useful, then that's much more helpful. Great, okay, and
mm.
I've helped hundreds of people develop in their own personal brand profile, if you like, for whatever they want to achieve. So being famous, and this is the difference between fame and celebrity. We talked a little bit about this before we came on live, didn't we? And
Mhm,
first time I've kind of repeated, I think I read it in a book or an autobiography about fame is being known for something, celebrity is just being known.
mm,
So in the 90s, when the idea of being on Big Brother, or being a TV reality star was coming through, a lot of people were saying, oh, I want a bit of that. And so I think now we're tainted with the idea that being out there is all about getting attention for
mm.
yourself.
Yeah.
Now that's uncomfortable. I wasn't particularly famous when I was on TV massively, which is why I call my business Bit Famous. So I was a
Mm.
bit, tiny bit famous. I used to pop up once an hour on the news channel and also early morning on BBC Breakfast,
Yeah.
doing the business news there, and not on for very long and not a main presenter. But I felt a little uncomfortable with that because I was being known for business news. I didn't really want
Mm,
to be known for business news. So when I set up on my own business to help others, it felt much more like a comfortable space to be helping others communicate
mhm, mm,
concisely and with confidence in a business setting. Um,
mm.
so yeah, it's quite, exposure is exposing unless you get it
Oh,
right. Do you
yeah,
like
it
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 can
it
feel
it actually
exposing?
that just, reminds me of something that my dad said when I was, I don't know, about 8 or 9, I guess, and, you're watching things, and I don't know if Madonna had burst onto the scene by that stage, or, all these, but, like, pop stars and whatnot, and, I don't know, I must have said something about, "Oh, this must be great to be like that," or something, and he was like, "Oh, no, you don't wanna be like that. No one ever lets you alone if you're like that." This idea of being a celebrity, being famous was there was so much to lose in his eyes, in terms
Yeah,
of, I guess, privacy and all of those things, which, it's a valid point of view, but it's also, when you're in the kind of category of
mm,
uh, service fame, we'll call it, when you're known for doing something, that's a completely different
mm,
thing than the ones where you've got massive fan clubs and all of that stuff. I mean, I
yeah.
certainly wouldn't want that in my life, but
I
yeah,
love
what you're talking about is different.
parents' responses to things. My
Mm,
daughter, my daughter often says she wants to be an MP. She's only 18.
wow.
She takes politics at A level, and every time I tell another grown up about that, I can see them kind of swallowing this desire to go. What does she want to do that for? Why? Because
We've
it's
heard
like,
that
oh
earlier, haven't
God,
we?
no. But most of them have managed to swallow it back down and go, oh, right, excellent, really good, interesting. People, we need young people.
Yeah.
For your dad to say, oh, you don't want to do that. It's like, well, I do actually. So it's a tricky one. But
Mm.
yeah, I once did a photo shoot for a whole day when I was a celebrity brand ambassador for Weight Watchers. Okay, that's another story. It's in my book. You get plucked from obscurity to go on telly and advertise a weight loss thing. It's brilliant fun. So I was modeling all day, essentially, Weight Watchers and smiling. And what I found most frustrating about it was that I couldn't get a chance to chat.
Mm,
And I was of no use to anyone. I felt really awkward and bored and like, oh, is this it?
mm,
So if my daughter said to me, I want to be a model, I would say what your dad said. What do you want to do that for? You can't chat and you can't have a laugh and you can't help anyone. So
Yeah.
smiling.
Yeah. I mean, I think as well, we have this whole thing that we didn't have as kids, this idea of likes and validation that come through social media and that kind of social media celebrity as well. So I mean, that's a completely different scenario than we ever had to contend with, isn't it?
There's a lot to contend with. It's getting our heads around it. It's regulating it properly for young people. I think that's the most important thing in all of this. I think the disappointment of not having enough likes or engagement or whatever is there if you want to be celebrity. But if you want to be valuable to people and useful, not salesy, then it comes from a different place and you're not so bothered about that level of engagement, that measurement for your own success. It's because ultimately what you put out on social media, people can search for and see again and again. So I am known on LinkedIn, for example, for doing things on workplace confidence and enabling people with tips and loads of valuable little videos about how they can do things differently and more effectively, rather than it being about me doing something and then me looking at it and going, oh, I haven't got enough likes. So putting all your best stuff out there, serving. And I think that's the lovely thing about reaching a certain maturity is not because you suddenly get loads of confidence. You don't at all. Sometimes have to work on that. But you do lose your ego a little bit. Or a lot, hopefully. You can lose what might have been driving you before, which is to achieve and succeed. Whereas when you hit your 50s, you're probably more getting into the space of how can I support, how can I enable others, how can I have most impact and most legacy and leave stuff behind.
Yeah.
And maybe your lens changes. I mean, your ideas about what you want to do in the world change. We don't have a midlife crisis for no good reason, do we? There's a lot going on there.
Look what I've got.
Oh, that's brilliant. The midlife crisis.
Oh, they're hilarious. They are so funny. I've found a load of them recently, but yeah, those are hilarious.
Isn't there a page in there about mummy getting a motorbike?
There's a page about someone getting a motorbike.
Daddy bought a new car. It's a sports car. It's making up for his inadequacies in the rest of his life. That sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they are hilarious. I have to say, those books are some of my favorites. But yeah, where were we? Legacy. And that's another theme that has come up through these conversations, is this idea of being an elder. And it's not a term I'm familiar with really in kind of day-to-day activity or day-to-day life. It's not part of any community that I've really come through. So this idea of becoming an elder in the community is quite interesting to me. And I think it kind of reflects what you're saying as well about passing on and supporting those who are coming through. So yeah, that's an interesting one. And
I think you feel you can.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's
I've
it.
got a lot of experience and I'm not going about to bog people down with it. Well, in my day, what you want to do, none of that. It's more like I feel more qualified to express an opinion that may be of value to someone else, but with their permission. I mean, I think there's a dangerous ground there with expertise being forced and foisted upon people when it's not actually wanted, and people need to make their own decisions and journeys on things. I've actually found a love of coaching far more than I ever would have anticipated 10 years ago. I get such a buzz from one-to-one coaching with people to either help them become more, to help them achieve executive success, basically with, executive presence coaching, and also helping people develop keynotes and speeches and things so they can feel more confident about doing all of that great communication stuff. And I see my coaching clients develop, and I feel like I'm nurturing and it just really speaks to me. My kid is 18 now, that she won't let me nurture her anymore. It's really annoying. I want to look after her, but she won't let me. So to have clients and to be able to share experiences with them so they can do whatever they want is thoroughly, nutritious for the soul.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things about when a project is something that it's not just that you are putting energy into it, it is energizing you as you go as well. And yeah, I think that's one of the other things, that we learn to choose things more on that basis as well, don't we? Things that we would have maybe done, like you say, in that age of acquisition almost, at 30 or 40, or, when you're trying to establish something, it's definitely got a different level of, what's the word I'm looking for? Different resonance. Different resonance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to conjure with, and I think for me, it's changed how I see myself, and I have a lot more self-acceptance as to who I am. So I used to think I was a certain way. I used to think I was strong and forthright and ambitious and energized all the time. To be honest, I was probably addicted to adrenaline and needed it in order to get myself through things and onwards. But going forwards and onwards was always the thing. And then, hey, perimenopause hit, and that physical energy wasn't there for me for a long time. And so I needed to find a new way of self-identifying. So, I've now recognized that I actually am a sensitive, soft, kind, quiet person. And I'm not about always sharking about and, hungry for the next thing. So that's exhausting. So I've had to rebadge myself for myself. And getting comfortable with that has been a bit of a challenge. But, lockdown gives you a lot of time to think, 4 years ago, to think things through. And yeah, hopefully, like myself, have come out, a lot of people have come out the other end of that feeling a little bit more balanced and a little bit more in tune with themselves. I know it's not easy, but life is a journey. We've got to say it in an American accent now as well. Do you know that? Journey.
That's it is, one of the phrases that has been playing in my head this morning was, do the work. And this idea of that we've got to do the work, and that's another kind of one that you have to hear in American, isn't it?
Yeah, do the work. We've all done the work. You haven't. Sorry, that's terrible. I don't know why I said that. We're live on LinkedIn, Deirdre. Can't go around saying things like that. But yeah, it's and I see this in leaders and the people that I coach, is that they're very keen to develop personally so they can develop professionally. And I don't think enough attention is paid to that in early career. It's overlooked. And as you say, you're in acquisition mode. So you're trying to achieve and learn, but you're not looking at yourself in any way. And I see a lot of leaders suddenly come to a realization that they are the problem and they are also the solution to their challenges and unlocking other people's potential. And that journey in itself is quite a phenomenal one for a lot of people. Suddenly a lot of books get read, don't they? Oh, Chimp Paradox, need that.
Yeah, no, I think it is actually very interesting what you say there. This idea, it's almost like this goes way back. This goes much further back. This goes back to the day you start school, basically, and you are in a race with everybody else in your class, and you've got to be, you're striving to be the best in that class. You're striving to jump through the hoops to get to the next stage. So we're well trained.
You should be.
Pardon?
Or told you should be.
Yeah,
and then if you're a bit mediocre, it's like, well, you're all right, overlook you. Yeah. It's like the PE teacher, isn't it? Always loving the people who are good at sports. Or the English teacher loving people who could spell, and then sort of overlooking the rest. But yeah, there's a pecking order, definitely. And you shouldn't be thinking that you just want to, keep things low. You've got to be shooting for the stars all the time. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
And you've got to get there first as well, and there's this thing of like, okay, if you are not ready for the next year in school, the idea of, having to stay back a year, having to repeat a year, it's like, oh my God, the shame, the terror. And that stays with you.
And also my parents were like, so you got a B, why didn't you get an A? Or very, a bit like what my dad said right at the beginning of this. It's like, if you're going to do something, make sure you do it to your best ability. But also, is it going to turn into a professional thing? Because if it is, it's worth doing. And if not, it's like, no, I just enjoy going to ballet and dancing around. I don't need to think about going to the Royal Academy.
Exactly.
I'm 5'2". I'm never going to get there.
I went to art college, right?
That's a punishing environment, isn't it?
Oh, no, I loved it. It was great.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, art college is brilliant. I strongly recommend it as a career choice. But the thing is that, going back to your dad and this idea of, well, what are you going to do after that? I mean, this is a question my mother has asked me so many
Yeah.
times. So what are you going to be able to do when you finish this course? And it's like, well, whatever I want.
Yeah, more and different.
Exactly. Yeah. And that it's funny. This the amount of kind of creativity and stuff that has been sucked out of education because it doesn't necessarily lead to a job. But now we're really realizing that's what we need back in businesses.
Mm.
That's what so many people are striving to put into it again.
Yeah. And I think there is a space in businesses where creativity can be taught
Mm,
and help to flourish a little
mm,
more after
mm,
people have been squeezed. But I guess it depends what sector you're in and whether it suits you. And I think going back to what you're saying about making decisions based on what you need when you get to this age, I recently came across a phrase called make sure you say a quality yes or a quality no. So if you're going to
mm,
say no to something, and we do struggle saying no to things, don't we? Because we could do things, it doesn't mean we should do things. So being able to say a quality no and express it clearly without you feeling bad that you've let someone down, or imagining that they're thinking that you're a crappy person or whatever. And I just find that space much more useful to me in
mm,
managing my energy and managing my ambition and the stuff that I do,
mm.
because I could say yes to everything. But
Yeah.
I've started saying a quality no to things. Thank you very much for thinking of me, but I'm not focused on that at the moment.
Mm,
Yes, quality.
yeah.
So it's finding ways of doing things
Mm,
um, that is really useful in work and in life as well, and not being
mm.
closed to new learning.
Yeah, and not sustaining these marginal losses where we are taking on too many things that are kind of dispersing our energy rather than focusing it to
Mm.
create, whatever it is that we really do have, um, that we're bought into, that we want to move with, or we want to see kind of coming about in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm not going to sound nifty at 50. I'm not going to sound fab at 50, which is what happens on all the birthday cards you get on your 50th birthday. People are telling you that you're super and this is the way forward. And it's not always. Again, it's like learning about yourself, looking after
Mm,
yourself, accepting yourself is a really big piece of being healthy and mentally well
mm,
during sort of transition, I think,
mm.
and we recognize it as a change in women. It's called the change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not for no good reason.
Well, tell me,
Um,
at this stage, and with all the wisdom that you've clearly accumulated, what message in a bottle would you send back to your younger self?
Don't worry about your big bum. It's going to come back into fashion. That's probably what I'd say.
I know, when did that happen?
What, the big bum? Or
Yeah,
what, my
the
big
fashion
bum?
thing, I guess. Um,
No, I just, gosh, mm, find people who love you and support you and
mm,
stick with them.
yeah.
Everyone else, who's on your bus is probably the question. Who have you got on your champion supporters bus? You're driving the bus. Who are you going to put on the bus and who are you going to kick off? Because
Mm,
they're not good for you. They're walking through your mind with their muddy boots. They've got their agenda that they're serving. They want you to be a certain way. Be
mm,
clear about who you are, which isn't
yeah.
easy to do when you're younger because you need help with that, I think. You need some
Mm,
guidance. But yeah,
mm.
you can consider who's on your bus and are they good for you? And that probably would be my message in a bottle.
I
And
love that.
brackets, don't worry about your big bum. It's back in fashion. Thanks, Kim Kardashian.
Do you know, you've used a phrase a few times through this, and I really love it. I'm absolutely stealing it. That somebody's walking through your mind with their muddy boots. I
It's
love
not my
that.
phrase. I can't remember where it comes from. My speaker colleague and friend Heather Wright told me about it. So it might be one of those really wise phrases that you should Google and find somebody clever said it, like Gandhi or something like that.
Well,
Yeah,
here, I'll,
isn't
I'll
it?
remember that I got it here. I heard it here first.
Yeah. Wipe your feet before you walk through my mind, please. Yeah.
The body is a temple. That's why I leave the shoes on the outside. Isn't that what they say?
Very good. Excellent.
So, Penny, thank you so much for
Very
sharing
welcome.
all of that with us. And I'm, just hearing about your dad's thoughts on things and my dad's thoughts on things. It's like they're two sides of the same kind of Rubik's Cube or something. They definitely had something similar in them, which is quite interesting as well. So, yeah, this has been absolutely lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I'll see you on the other side. Anybody who hears a little nugget that you appreciate, let us know and give Penny a wave. All
Thank
right.
you. Thanks,
Thank you,
Deirdre.
everyone.
Lovely. Bye, everyone. Cheers.